Hello and welcome to an edition of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
Bill.
Uh,
And I guess I'm going to start off with let's talk about the Kaepernick thing.
okay.
And it's be our business moment, but it's also our social commentary if you want as well. So I just get done writing an op-ed piece for something called The Conversation. And I looked hard at it. I looked hard at the whole thing. It's not the first time Nike has used the Just Do It platform to make a social commentary. They used it in 1995 when they had a campaign called If You Let Me Play. If you remember that, Jay. It was directed at young girls and women.
Mm-hmm.
It was a If You Let Me Play thing, and it was really, really one of their more successful ads and helped buy them back some market share from Reebok at the time. And then they also did in 1995, they did a featured a HIV positive athlete, not Magic Johnson, but another athlete. And I thought both of those times they were going out on something very, very controversial and did a good job with it. And if you lose track of the fact that while this is social commentary, and it is a nice position for social advancement, social justice, it's also about money.
It's completely about money.
So they're doubling down that the youth, either the active youth or the socially conscious youth that would buy Nike for fashion are going to buy more than the older white males that are going to drop it because it's Kaepernick.
Well, they already like New Balance anyway.
It's a wise bet.
It's a great bet.
So that will happen. But I also look at it as almost a referendum on the political system. And I would tell you that I would almost tell you that anybody buying a pair of Nikes now is a blue vote. So the midterm election. So you should see what happens with Nike, and you'd be able to track the election this way.
I suppose. But I think like lots of the blue votes, and I'm not blue or red. I don't like either party. But, I think this Nike thing also represents the hypocrisy that's involved in our political system. Because while it is a beautiful message to send, and I've been full supporters from Kaepernick since day one, Nike also exploits foreign workers, pays them horrible wages, gives them no benefits, and gives them horrible hours. And they continue to do that. So it's while they're saying we support social justice and we support fairness, their labor practices are the exact opposite of that. And I think that can't be, that needs to be discussed as well. Because it's nice to say we'll support Kaepernick and we'll hope that the young people that buy Nike shoes anyway will buy more Nike shoes. But we're not going to change our business practices overseas. We're still going to exploit workers, pay them horrible wages, take jobs out of here, and avoid taxes in America. So let's not give Nike too much of a pat on the back.
No, I'm not giving them a pat on the back.
No. They see a system, they have a formula that's worked since they started, which is, go with rebellious youth while, reaping all the benefits of capitalism, the tax system, the way it's set up now.
And 30 years, Just Do It Camps, 30 years Just Do It's been out there.
Right.
And it's good. It's a great market. It's one of the best marketing platforms I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, it's fantastic. I would just like to see them actually back it up with more things than profit and take care of their workers overseas. That's all. I don't think that's too much to ask.
Well, interestingly enough, I want to point this out. So while I'm writing this op-ed piece, I rewatched the ad and everything. And so when I'm watching the ad, Kaepernick closes with his line about even if you have to give up everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the underlying message is it's about your dreams. Are your dreams crazy enough? That to me was the whole message of the campaign. The Kaepernick thing was a statement, but the campaign, the whole vision was, are your dreams crazy enough? So do whatever you dream, yada, 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 right?
Right.
So while I'm doing that, my phone dings. And, I subscribe to Nike.com, and I get this email from Nike saying, are your dreams crazy enough? And it has 3 or 4 vignettes related to the commercial, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it says, do you want to share your crazy dream? So it's a, interactive thing. And at the bottom of that was, these will help you dream crazy, or these, if you're going to dream crazy, you'll need these. And it was an ad featuring some shoes and some stuff like that. So they immediately, within 48 hours, we're all over it.
Oh yeah.
With a marketing call to action.
Yes, well, yes, they were. I mean, let's just
monitor this, see where it goes.
Yeah, and obviously the collusion case, if it ever comes to pass, if anything actually happens from it.
And I was with some football people tonight, and they told me that if you ask the NFL guys, they said his arm is dead.
Yeah.
And that's what they're saying. His arm's dead.
Right.
And you'd only bring him in if you're going to bring him in as a first string quarterback, because he caused too much drama for a second string quarterback, and you lose the focus of the team. And I probably agree with that. That would happen.
And I do know that.
Right, but that's what would happen.
Yeah, I do think there was people that, looking at the, if we're talking about blue votes and red votes, we know what their NFL owners are. Most of them outright red. And, rich people typically are, because that's where you protect your money. But there does also seem to be the thing where a lot of owners said that, they were interested in Kaepernick as a backup in the beginning. But we know before all the controversy started, but the Kaepernick was looking for starter money. And then obviously once this whole thing came to pass and they didn't want to deal with him at all, but part of the reason he didn't have a job initially is that he wanted starter money, and a lot of people just didn't view him as a starter. So,
true.
But, hopefully in the end of all this, the actual message of racial inequality will eventually still win out in the arguments, although it never seems to online. But I never know if online's the real place.
But just, again, the message gets lost on the platform.
It does.
In this message, we'll see if we get lost on the platform or not, but Kaepernick's message absolutely did.
And it's sad that I can only remember one of the guys' names, because I wanted to shout out more, but Kenny Stills, who had a nice game with the Dolphins and their surprising win this week, he did kneel for the anthem. So, it had, there's...
I heard like 10 people kneeled.
Right. He was the most... I'm sure Malcolm Jenkins for the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, I'm not sure what he's doing this year, actually. I need to look into that. But, the movement is kind of still happening on the field, I guess. But, we just watched Sam Darnold have a pretty nice first half.
Yeah.
And leading the Jets over a terrible, terrible looking Detroit Lions team on the road. But we had a lot of very interesting games this weekend, I think.
We did. So do you want to make our predictions first, or do you want to talk about the games first?
Let's talk about the games first. What stood out for you? What were your three big takeaways from the NFL weekend, would you say? If you're not ready to...
Number one, the Saints defense is not improved.
No, at all.
That's number one.
Because they were
number two,
at home against Tampa and gave up a zillion points to a backup
the
quarterback.
Jimmy G bandwagon is overcrowded, because that's what I would call the first meaningful game he played in. And he played a tough opponent.
A very tough opponent. Maybe the best defense in football.
Jimmy G watch. We'll have to see what happens next couple of weeks, but I'm not buying the stock as much as I was buying it before.
Okay.
The third one is, let me think, that Dak Prescott could have been a flash in the pan.
Those are three pretty good observations that I'll agree with.
Yeah, I didn't see anything yesterday. Dak Prescott snuck up on some people in year one. He didn't sneak up with anybody year two, and he obviously didn't sneak up on anybody yesterday.
No. I would say, to your points, in defense of technically Prescott and Jimmy G, neither of those guys really have any weapons whatsoever on either of those offenses. I know obviously he has Zeke Elliott, but as far as the passing game options, I have no idea who he's throwing the ball to.
Neither does he.
Yeah, no. I would say my big three takeaways: the Patriots are still the Patriots, and it makes me very depressed. I thought, a healthy Houston defense with J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, Tyrann Mathieu, all those guys they have on that defense right now. I thought they would have put some heat on Brady, and at least would have been a tough game. But the Patriots just ran and threw all over them like it was nothing. And they gave Deshaun Watson fits all day long. And again, I guess I should have expected it because that's what it is, but I just didn't. My second big thing is Patrick Mahomes looks legit. He had a monstrous
big arm, and Tyreek Hill is really fast.
and really fast. But Patrick Mahomes, for a gunslinger guy, he completed a lot of his passes, and with all of his throws, with all the throws he makes, didn't throw one pick yesterday. No sin. And I sort of thought we'd get a little bit more of an uneven performance. I thought we'd get some of the highs with a lot of the lows, but he looked like just a straight veteran yesterday. And then obviously,
a lot of people had the Chargers going to the Super Bowl.
But the Chargers were the Chargers. They dropped 2 touchdowns and they missed a couple field goals again. And then the other big thing, obviously, was the thing everybody talked about, and that's Aaron Rodgers gets carted off the field. The Bears look like they're in complete control of that game. And he comes back and carves them up for like 21 straight points in the second half. And just threw the ball wherever he wanted.
Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers.
That throw he threw to Geronimo Allison was just ridiculous. Did you see that one? I think that was the second touchdown. Like the wind, he threw it like almost 40-something yards in the air from the opposite hash mark, and you probably had like a foot on either side for that throw to anywhere else that throw doesn't work, and somehow we put it there, which was just amazing. But I know, that's Aaron Rodgers. We're supposed to expect that at this point, but it's still pretty amazing to watch. But on the other side of the ball, Khalil Mack looked pretty legit.
Khalil Mack had an unbelievable game, looking like every bit of what you thought he was.
Every bit of what you thought he was.
Speaking of what you thought he was, what do you think of the Buffalo Bills?
Nate Peterman might be the worst player to ever play quarterback in the history of the NFL. His 2 games have just been beyond atrocious. He threw for like 47 yards yesterday. And more picks. And his last time he was on his first NFL game, he threw 5 picks in the first half. I don't know what Buffalo is doing. Like, I know the guy they drafted, Allen, isn't quite ready to be an NFL player right now. But they also traded away A.J. McCarron, who at least the Bengals were in love with and the Browns were in love with for a short amount of time, for a 5th-round pick to the Raiders.
You've got to think that when they make that trade, they're saying to themselves, hey, we got a guy that's legit.
Yeah. That means you're either starting, because either A.J. McCarron is absolutely terrible, and I've seen A.J. McCarron play, and he's certainly nothing to write home about, but he's not Nate Peterman bad. Like, I still can't believe Nate Peterman's on a roster.
I'm shocked.
It's just, our former Steeler Landry Jones would have been much finer. As long as you're not going to start your rookie, you got to start somebody mildly competent. You can still lose and get the first pick of the draft next year if you're Buffalo. But you could at least start somebody that's not going to be a complete embarrassment to your franchise.
And as you spoke, Sam Darnold just threw another touchdown pass.
And he looks, I'm already going to have to apologize. I think I said in the draft, I think it was because I didn't like the shape of his giant head, that I thought he was going to be terrible, but he looks fantastic all through the preseason, and then obviously in this first game on the road in Detroit, he looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Because, again, the Jets, are not a team. You got Isaiah Crowell, Bilal Palau in the backfield, Robbie Anderson, and, some other parts at receiver. Like, he's not exactly working with the most, insane amount of weapons, but
no.
He looks good.
6 plays, 75 yards, 3.5 minutes.
Yes. We are going to talk a tiny bit about the Steelers, but we're going to wait till our Steeler minute at the end of the podcast, so that those that don't want to hear us complain about the Steelers in a podcast won't have to. You can turn it off. We'll let you know before that happens, but that will be coming up for those that want to hear that part.
Yes, it's going to be tied in with our predictions.
I think so. It's nice to be able to make our Super Bowl predictions after Week 1. Not that, again, but I know at the same time nobody should overreact to Week 1. But
that's right.
Nobody was probably as good as they were. Nobody was probably as bad as they were, except for the Bills. They probably were as bad as they were.
And then some.
And then some, yeah.
And then, let's go right in our predictions. Let's do our NFC North.
All right. I'm glad we're picking this the day after Week 1, too.
I'm going to go Vikings, Packers, Lions, Bears.
I would go Vikings, Packers, Bears, Lions. I liked some of the stuff I saw from the Bears yesterday. I think one thing you noticed with the Bears, and you've seen it with like a lot of coaches that come out of the way he came from a high school coach to a college coach, now he's a pro offensive coordinator. For the first half of the game, you could see it was very scripted plays, and they knew what they wanted to run. And the Bears had a really nice first half. offensively as well. And then
Yeah.
it seemed like in the second half, Green Bay made some adjustments. They ran out of plays to call, and their offense just stumbled. Trubisky threw up an insane stat line. I think he completed over 20 passes, and he threw for like 106 yards or something ridiculous. He averaged like 4.3 yards of an attempt, a completion. And, you know, it looked like they did not want to throw, despite the fact that they had spent money on Hearns and Trey Burton, and you got Tariq Cohen who can get down the field, and you have the Kevin White, the receiver. They did not seem like they had any intention on trying to stretch the field at all. And you have to at least have the threat. You've got to throw it down the field a couple of times.
You have to. You've got to loosen them up. You got to let them know that you're capable of doing it.
But on the other side of the ball, they had, obviously we talked about him, Khalil Mack, but he was on a snap count yesterday. He only played about a third of the snaps. And in that time, he had a forced fumble, 2 sacks, and a touchdown on a pick. And
which is pretty good if he'd have played every play.
Which is pretty good if he played the entire game.
If he played every play for 2 weeks.
Exactly. So I think once he gets up to speed with the Bears defense, he's out there every play. The rookie Roquan Smith, who they picked 8th overall, the middle linebacker, he also looked really good when he was out there. He's just going to take a little time to learn the NFL game. But I think their defense could be something pretty special. And again, you look at that team, and I know the offensive line is probably, middle of the pack, but Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen is a really nice backfield. You got some decent tight ends and receivers. I mean, really the only thing that can possibly hold them back is their first-round pick from a year ago and Mitch Trubisky. But, I don't think they're a bad team. I think if you're a Bears fan, you got some hope.
You have more hope than a year ago.
Than you had a year ago. That Vikings defense looks tremendous. Delvin Cook looked like he's fully back from that ACL somehow this quickly. And then obviously Diggs, Thielen, and Rudolph is and I don't know if what's-his-face, Kirk Cousins, is going to have to be an upgrade, but I thought he looked pretty good.
I thought he looked pretty good, too.
But Case Keenum looked good all last year, too, and they made the NFC Championship game. So, I mean, the bar is pretty high.
The bar is pretty high. But I think both the Vikings and Packers will go to the playoffs out of that group.
And we have not seen, or have you heard anything at this point? I've been looking. Did Aaron Rodgers get an MRI on the knee or anything else, or was this just a freakish Paul Pierce, ride me off on the cart, but I'm coming right back, so I'm not really hurt sort of situation?
I do not know. I have not heard anything.
Because when he was in the medical tent for probably about 10 minutes yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And then they drove him off on the cart.
Right. And he came back and he's limping a little bit, but he looked good.
Right. But I'll be interested to see if anything actually happens after that. Like if this was just, maybe like a mild sprain and he's right back and he's feeling good again. And it was just all precautionary, like it's Aaron Rodgers, let's go give him an x-ray just to be safe kind of a situation. Because it's hard to imagine they would have put him out there if they thought there was any chance of him doing any serious harm to himself.
Okay, let's go AFC North. I'll let you go first this time.
Well, this just got very tricky for me. I still think the Ravens are the worst team in the division, despite the fact that they just destroyed the Buffalo Bills. I think they just played a hideous, hideous team. And that's not the Joe Flacco Ravens we're normally going to see. I think they're a pretty bad football team. I actually think the Browns are going to come in third. I think if Baker Mayfield was in that game yesterday, they probably would have won that game. Because I think you needed somebody to just make a few more plays on offense, and Tyrod Taylor just simply didn't do it. He did some nice job with his legs, but not much else.
Yeah, he had 80 yards rushing, which is about what he had passed.
And this is the head pick, because obviously in my heart I want the Steelers to win the division. But I looked at the stats, and I know I'm not a stats guy, and I rail against those people sometimes. But in the last 4 seasons, while Ben Roethlisberger is a top 5 quarterback at home, he's behind, obviously, like your Breeze, your Rodgers, your Brady, where you would expect him to be. Over the last 4 seasons on the road, he is one of the 3 worst quarterbacks in football. He's on Brian Hoyer's level as far as people that have had that, a couple of starts. And the guy I saw yesterday was the same guy that played Jacksonville last year that also threw 5 picks, Nate Peterman style. He had 5 turnovers yesterday. So I'm picking the Steelers to come in second in the division. And the Cincinnati Bengals to come in first.
Okay, well, there's no way I agree with you on that. I'm going Pittsburgh. I'll go Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland. I'll go Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland.
Okay. I just think
the Steelers will win the division. Baltimore, for some reason, is always better than you think they are.
right.
Bengals always find a way to self-destruct.
Yes, they typically
and the Browns
do.
will definitely be better. What's your over-under on Browns victories?
I think they're going to win 6 games somehow.
That's where I am. I'm at 6.
I mean, I would put money on 5, but I think they'll win 6. And I think that's good for them. I think if, they win a couple with Tyrod Taylor, sometime around week 9 or week 10, they turn the keys over to Baker Mayfield. Hopefully they get a couple victories down the end when, they can do the Jimmy G thing. Let them play in a couple of semi-meaningless games for other teams. And then move into next season. I mean, the Browns have got a nice, talented team. That offensive line did not look
you've
good.
been drafted. We talked about it yesterday. The only team I know that had back-to-back number 1 picks in consecutive years.
Yes. I would say, although he must have done a fairly good job yesterday because the Steelers receivers did not seem to be open. But I think some of the Denzel Ward hype today is a little bit overrated, that they're getting credit for him as a fourth overall pick. Because those throws that he caught were bad throws. So
Well, one was right to him, and one was a deflection off of
Jesse James, yeah.
Yes, of Jesse James, yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought his coverage was decent, and he did make some tackles.
He did. And Myles Garrett was an absolute beast.
Myles Garrett was a beast.
He looks fantastic. And I really like the fact that, I know he took some crap on Twitter, but I like his, I want to be the next LeBron of this town. He wants to own,
Yeah.
I like that. I mean,
Well, I think people will like him.
if he plays like that every week, people are going to love him.
All right, let's give me your Super Bowl picks. I've changed since yesterday, by the way.
I would think he might have changed since yesterday. Well, again, I'm hoping that the Steelers still end up in the Super Bowl when all those things go well. I don't like the way the season has looked for them. It pains me greatly to pick it, but they weren't even at full strength yesterday. New England they looked like the best team in football again. So just from a prediction standpoint, trying to be be right, not think with my heart, I'm going to pick New England. And I think Minnesota. Part of it was that Harrison Smith tackle. That dude is an absolute beast. He blew up a 300-pound lineman and made a tackle like it was nothing, and he's their safety. And they're just very deep on defense, very deep on offense. And I think the Vikings are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Well, yesterday morning at noon, if you had asked, if we did our show yesterday before the games.
Yes, as we spoke about doing.
I would have picked New Orleans in the Super Bowl. But I can't do that now. I mean, they can score points, but they sure can't stop anybody.
No, and that was at home against Ryan Fitzpatrick. And again, Fitzpatrick has had some monster games over the course of his career, but at home in the Dome, for your, you got to win that. You can't give up 50 points to Ryan Fitzpatrick. So who you got in the NFC?
I am going to go with Minnesota over New Orleans. I had them close anyhow, but I thought that I liked New Orleans better going into yesterday than not coming out of yesterday.
And are you sticking with your must-pick Steelers for the AFC?
I just really can't pick New England. I just can't do it.
Part of me is hoping I'm also jinxing them slightly, but,
I just can't pick them, so. I already bet money in Vegas on the Steelers, so I got to go with the Steelers.
Yeah. Like I said,
So I got a repeat of Super Bowl 9, which is exactly what Bill Cowher said yesterday.
that would be fantastic. Like I said, my concern with this, well, we've gone 24 minutes right now. So should we do our Steeler talk, or do you want to talk other stuff and end with Steeler talk?
I want to talk NFL food.
Okay, let's go NFL food. We'll combine
All
two
right,
of our
so
loves, football and food.
I am going to go. I'll be at a 49ers game this year, and I'll be at a Dolphins game. So the 49ers have a Dungeness crab pretzel.
Huh.
And I like Dungeness crab and I like pretzels.
Is the crab
That's gonna be
stuffed in
my
the
pick to
pretzel?
eat there.
Or is it sprinkled on top of the pretzel?
It's kind of on top. The pretzel kind of folds over.
Okay. Almost like a pretzel bun?
A fresh butter toasted pretzel baguette.
Okay.
So yeah, like a pretzel bun. So that's my one thing I'm going to eat. Then I'm going to go to a Dolphins game. And I'm going to have Mojo Donuts at the Dolphins game. And Mojo Donuts is a South Florida bakery. It's setting up shop at the stadium. It was featured on Guy Fieri's Diners, Drive-Ins and Dives.
Okay.
So I like that one. And then Philadelphia has a Fuku spicy fried chicken sandwich that looks amazing.
Oh, the Momofuku?
It's a specialty of the fast casual restaurant Fuku. Features habanero, braised, brined sai served on a Martin's potato roll and garnished with pickles and butter.
Okay.
That sounds pretty good to me.
That sounds pretty good.
And the other thing is, it looks like ham is a big thing right now. Because two concession stands, two teams feature Black Forest ham.
Oh, you like that?
And one is the Raiders, who are calling it the Monty Davis Cristo. Instead of the Monte Cristo, the Monty Davis Cristo.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of being on French toast, it's on waffles.
Is it still battered and deep fried? Because the traditional Monte Cristo is also deep fried after they put it in.
I think.
Or maybe
It
just.
looks like it's just put together. It looks like two waffles are put together.
Okay.
It's like it's all one thing.
Okay.
And the Green Bay Packers have this amazing Black Forest ham sandwich, which looks like there's no way you can pick it up with your hands. Black Forest ham, Black Forest bacon, and that sounds like a really good idea, doesn't it?
It does.
Sauteed onions, beer mustard, cheese sauce, and pretzel bun.
Huh.
So those are things that I would like to try. I'm also going to San Francisco this week, but I'm not going to a game. And I'm going to Soto Mare, which is a restaurant I've been to before.
Mm-hmm.
It says that I'm going to order the best damn crab chipino, which I've had, so I'm getting excited about having that. The best damn crab chipino, that's the way it appears on the menu.
Okay.
So those are all my food things for the week.
Well, I didn't go anywhere. I got to watch the Steeler game with you. But this morning at work, we had Yaya's breakfast catered in. And it was these homemade biscuit sandwiches, and they were like stuffed with really good egg, sausage. I'm actually going to have to go back. I'm going to have to try to find this place and actually go, and then I'll have a food moment with Yaya's breakfast. Because the catered breakfast sandwiches were pretty outstanding.
And what were the sandwiches? Eggs, what else?
Egg, sausage, cheese, egg, cheese, and bacon, egg, and cheese. And you can tell it was like the real, you know, you can tell real bacon versus like fast food, but this is the real bacon.
Yeah.
And the sausage was double sausage. It was like an inch thick of scrambled eggs. A big piece of cheddar cheese on a really good biscuit.
Well, we might have had a knockout injury in the Jets-Lions game.
Uh-oh.
Matt Stafford is down for the count. He doesn't look good, and he's holding his arm in his chest.
Oh. He was not having a good game up until that point either.
No, because of the fumble last time, and the Jets ran in for a touchdown. So it's now 31-17.
Okay.
But Matt Stafford is up and walking to the sideline. Replaced by Matt Castle.
Nice. Well.
All right, so let's have our Steeler moment.
Okay.
All right, like we talked about offline, I don't agree with teams playing their starting quarterback in their skill positions for 2 series of downs out of 4 games. I think the offense needs timing. I think they need to play with each other. I think they need to get used to being rushed and knocked down rather than just sitting back with a red jersey on. And so I'm blaming, as bad as Ben was, I'm putting 50% of it on Tomlin.
See.
And I'm ready for a change after week 1. But I was ready for a change last year.
Yeah. I do think, I mean, there's been a lot of, once again, and a lot of commentators say this too, so I don't want to pretend like I'm taking credit for it, but there's always a lot of talk out of the Steeler locker room. They don't seem like they're the most on the same page team in the NFL. And James Harrison is more than, I know you can argue, but James Harrison is a little bitter about the way things ended in Pittsburgh. But that's been his assessment as well, is that things, people are on different pages on defense. People are allowed to go talk to the media a little bit too freely, and it's not as disciplined as it needs to be. And I do see that when they play.
Well, I'll defend the defense. The defense looked really good yesterday.
No, the defense looked really good yesterday overall.
And the special teams look good.
As I told you off the air,
special teams look good in years.
It pains me to even go to the analytical argument, but over the last 4 seasons, Roethlisberger is one of the 3 worst quarterbacks in the league on the road. And that's not a small sample size at this point. And I don't think the throws he made in that game had anything to do with timing. They were just bad, poor decision Roethlisberger throws. The first one, at the end of the half, where you could have been up 10-7, assuming he made the 30-yard field goal, and we don't know if that would have been good because his kicks were a little shaky yesterday after he got his new contract. But you got to throw that ball away. Because even if Denzel Ward didn't jump in front of that play to make it, the other defensive back who jumped behind Denzel Ward, as they look like 2 ballets.
That was a terrible pass. That might have been the worst pass. As bad as some of the other passes were, that might have been the worst pass of the day.
Because there was no way that pass was going to be completed, and there was a 90% chance it was going to be picked off. Your only hope is that the defensive backs, knocked each other over in an attempt to pick it off. And that's 3 points off the board right there. The launching down the middle of the field to Antonio Brown, I still don't know about that play.
It's probably a miscommunication. He thought he was running a post, and he didn't run a post.
Well, it was one of those.
That goes with what I'm saying again about you got to play together.
Yeah, but I also think that that's not a very well advised throw.
No.
And I don't know how much control Ben Roethlisberger has, but I'm not sure that he's the best judge of plays either. And both the sack fumbles, especially the ones in the second half, Myles Garrett and those guys were in on you all the time. You got to know you don't have that much time to hold on to the ball.
Right.
And especially after the James Conner play. But I don't know if this is, again...
James Conner some love.
Yeah, James Conner had a really nice game. The fumble was really costly at the end. But the Steelers had plenty of opportunities to pick him up and save that at the end, and they just simply didn't. I don't like the play calling, and Pittsburgh's been doing this, I think, my entire life. If they have any kind of a lead, whether it's 3 points or 10 points in the fourth quarter, they just deflate the ball and try to... And you can't do that in the modern NFL, even against the Browns.
No.
You can't stop calling plays. No. If you've got Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster and James Washington, who only played on a couple special teams plays for some reason...
Exactly what you said yesterday. You got to put your foot on their neck and crush their head.
Because as soon as they went up, as soon as they got that second touchdown in the third quarter, they had no intention of moving the ball at that point. And you just can't do that. But that was Cowher, and that's Tomlin. And I don't understand why it doesn't work. It's too easy to score points. The league is made for offense. Positive, TJ Watt was an absolute beast. He had 6 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks, and he blocked the field goal at the end to save the Steelers from a loss. James Conner obviously played outstanding. And I really like Switzer. I want to see, he looked great on those returns, and I'd like to see him get more involved in the offense.
We might have to revise our New York Jets prediction. They just scored on a punt return. They're up 37-17.
They look... To be fair, they're playing the Lions, but still, that,
Matt Donald hasn't had to be on the field for at least 20 minutes. We'll see what he does when he gets back in, because they scored the defensive touchdown and the punt return before he's had a chance to win the game.
And he still has 2 touchdowns and 1 pick.
Yeah.
It's a really nice...
He scored a touchdown. 3 plays later, the defense scored a touchdown. And then 5 plays later, they ran punt back for a touchdown. So he's getting a nice rest on the sidelines.
Well, it'll be nice someday when he's 2 or 3 years from now when they can beat Brady. Yeah, I mean, there was so many problems with the Steelers, and again, I think it'd be nice to have.
They were up 21-7 with 8 minutes to go.
And again, I mean, I know it was a rainy day, but I mean, he missed a field goal.
Hey, it's a rainy day for both teams.
Yeah.
One team had 6 turnovers, one team had 1.
I know. And the Steelers had 7 sacks. They held him in check most of the game. Yeah. I just didn't think the offense, again, if they are, and they've been touted this for the last 3 seasons, the best offense in football, they have far too many days like yesterday where they don't look like a great offense to be considered even in that cat,
No.
I mean, you hear about all the people they talk about the team, and it's just, I don't know.
It was disappointing. I mean, the weather was hideous. And the defense played great, and he should have won the game. He didn't win the game.
Yeah.
So even though it was a tie, it was a loss.
But like I said, I feel like that first pick that Roethlisberger threw at like the 5-yard line to Antonio Brown that had no chance of being completed, if he just throws that ball away, which is something Ben Roethlisberger seems incapable of doing, he feels like he just has to throw it somewhere.
Yeah, he does.
But assuming maybe Boswell made that field goal, then that's a different, it's a different game.
Hopefully. But now we get to turn our attention to Kansas City.
Who, Joe Hayden is probably going to be out for this game with a hamstring.
But it's a home game.
But it is a home game. But there's a lot of speed on that Kansas City team. And they did all that yesterday without Travis Kelce, who I think they get back this week. Which just gives them yet another weapon. But what's good is Kansas City's defense is not very good. Philip Rivers threw up for over 400 yards against them. And they dropped 2 touchdown passes against them. So hopefully we see a little more of the Steeler offense. I would like to see more, I don't know, like some of that more Patriot slants and quick outs. Because it feels like the Steelers are either trying to throw the ball all the way down the field or throw it horizontally to a wide receiver screen. I don't feel like...
We did see a bunch of passes to James Conner yesterday.
Yeah.
And we saw quarterback sneak.
I just feel like except for that really quick slant that worked really well with Juju on the one play and got almost picked with Antonio Brown, they don't work the middle of the field enough. And I feel like they really, because Ben either wants to throw it in 1 second or hold on to the ball till somebody's 60 yards downfield and try to chuck it. And I think it needs to be a more consistent, take advantage and throw it all over to all areas of the field. Much like Tom Brady. Really take advantage of everything.
Right.
And I just don't feel like they've done that. And it doesn't matter who the offensive coordinator is, so I'm going to blame Roethlisberger.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he should get a lot of blame for yesterday.
Yes. Well, we've gone for almost 40 minutes, so that's probably going to be it for tonight. I will say that I saw The Quiet Place this week. One of the worst movies I've ever seen, based on how popular it is. I just thought there were 8,000 logical holes in it that just didn't work. That they were just plot contrivances, and it was just terrible. I don't know what else to say. I won't spoil it for anybody that's seen it, but it's just none of it makes any logical sense. And I can give a movie a little bit of a leeway. Like you can have 1 or 2 logic gaps that I'll ignore because I know you're trying to tell a story and it's a movie and we've only got 90 minutes. But when everything makes no sense, it just doesn't work for me. Just gonna throw that.
And I've been watching the second season of Mr. Mercedes, and it's outstanding. And the character that plays Brady is really, really convincingly wicked. It's good.
I'm gonna have to check that show out at some point. I'm surprised the first season hasn't made it to any of the streaming areas. Mm-hmm. Be it Hulu, Netflix, something. Or at least
it's an AT&T product, so it's on it's on DirecTV.
Yeah.
On Audience.
I know it's a weird show. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so please keep rating us. I assume you're gonna have some cool food moments for people in the next couple of weeks. It sounds like.
Absolutely. Oh, I do have another food moment. Slaps Barbecue in Kansas City, Kansas. So right across the line from Kansas City, on the Kansas side, Slaps Barbecue was outstanding. I had a 3-way combination. I had brisket, pulled pork, and burnt ends, and the burnt ends were tremendous.
Sounds delicious.
Yep. Really good. I really enjoyed it.
So again, if anyone's still listening, thank you for all your support, the people that have contributed. Please go rate us on iTunes. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends to sign up.
And we'll talk to you next week.